Well, good morning, class. The last time that we were together, we began an introduction into paradigms of instruction. We had considered the incidental model and the skills directed model. This morning, I want to begin with the interactive model, the process model, and I want to first start out with some basic concepts that underpin the interactive model. There are three that I will speak about: functional teaching, simplifying cognitive processes, and simulation. What do we mean by functional teaching? In the interactive model, what we want to do is teach reading skills and content simultaneously. That is, skills do not need to be taught separately from the curriculum, nor do we need a separate classroom, but we don't need a specialist coming into the building to teach our classes. What we can do as good content area specialists is integrate reading skills along with our content. That is, we teach reading functionally as a part of our regular curriculum. That's a significant concept with this interactive model. Different from the skills model, where we identify skills that are important to our particular content area, teach those skills separately, and then hope for transfer when the skills are needed by kids. For example, let me give you a comparison and contrast between these two types of perspectives. Let's say we had from a skills orientation, you were a good social studies teacher. You told yourself, well, reading is a significant part of my curriculum. Students still use textbooks in class. They certainly use library resources. So what I'm going to do as a good content area specialist, coming from a skill-centered type of model, I'm going to identify those reading skills that are important to my content area as a social studies teacher. Now, those reading skills may be different for a science teacher, or for a math teacher, or for an English teacher. So as a social science teacher, or a social studies teacher, I'm going to find those skills that are important to my teaching, and I'm going to set some time aside in my very, very busy curriculum and then teach those skills directly to the kids. Give many examples of how those skills would be used in social studies. And then as we move through the quarter or the semester, the kids would use those skills as they did library work, as they use their textbook. In contrast, an interactive model would suggest or would flow like this. The content determines the need for a particular skill. It's the content that's the driving force behind the need for a particular skill as it's used by kids. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Let's say you're a social studies teacher, and you have this textbook in front of you. And here we are in Chapter 2. And in Chapter 2, there are many graphs and charts. The content information there is telling you, hey, good teacher, now is the appropriate time to review and or teach the reading of graphs and charts, because the content determines it says that this is the appropriate time to teach graphs and charts. In other words, we're looking at it functionally. The content says, now's the time to do this, and so we teach skills, reading skills, and content simultaneously. Okay. That's what we mean by functional teaching. Another part of, or another concept, another underpinning of the interactive model is simplifying cognitive processes. Oftentimes in the behavioral sciences, we have very abstract ideas. Now, granted, we use these ideas, we talk this language easily. For example, we talk about comprehension. But if we start thinking about, well, what does comprehension mean? What does comprehension mean? What is cognition? What is thinking? What is reasoning? We use this kind of language, and we assume that folks know what it is that we're talking about, when indeed these are very, very abstract ideas. And there are many different kinds of perspectives when you look at concepts like comprehension. The area of thinking and cognition that you are most familiar with probably is Bloom's taxonomy. It's a widely known taxonomy that's used in education as a way of trying to understand very complex phenomena. Bloom and his colleagues back in the early 1950s, 1954 or so on, did create this taxonomy and you're nodding your head, so I'm glad that you're aware of that. But there is, even within that model or within that paradigm, a complexity about Bloom's taxonomy. If I was to go out into the schools right now, go to Central High School, and ask teachers, tell me about Bloom's taxonomy. What are the 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy? Do you use Bloom's taxonomy as a reference in asking questions in the development of your lesson plans? If the teachers were honest, they would probably say no. They would probably remember that they in fact did study it. They're familiar with the term Bloom's taxonomy. They may be able to identify, share with you some of the steps, but there is a perceived complexity about Bloom's taxonomy that is not easily translated from theory into practice. And so what happens is teachers tend to stay away from even Bloom's taxonomy. Let me give you an example that illustrates this point about simplifying cognitive processes. J.P. Guilford, in the early 1950s, created a paradigm called the structure of the intellect. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of work, original piece of work by J.P. Guilford, but very, very complex. It's a three-dimensional model. And when I was in graduate school, as part of my dissertation, that particular model, it looks like a cube, but we used to call it our mental block because it was so complex. In the 70s, that particular model had 120 facets to it. It's three-dimensional, and each time a facet is added, it grows. Right now, there are about 180 facets to that particular model of thinking, structure of the intellect. Now, what if I was to go out to school and lay this model on teachers, which has been done, by the way? Okay, well, we're going to get all excited about the structure of the intellect, and we go through a song and dance about presenting it, and then I give it to you. I have to consider not 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy. I have to consider 180 facets of the structure of the intellect. Teachers go out of their mind. This is too much. So what we're going to do with the interactive model, we're going to try to simplify cognitive process so that it's understood, so that we can define it easily, and then it can be translated into practice. We're going to do that in second as we define comprehension. So we need to consider, in the interactive model, simplifying complex cognitive phenomena. The last and final underpinning concept that we're going to be dealing with is simulation. Now, in the real world, nobody has really seen a comprehension. That's an abstraction. That's a man-made, created type of idea. But we do use that language. So what we do is we have this abstraction called comprehension here. Then what we do is we define that concept, that construct, simply so it's understood by people. And then what we do is we create activities that are like our definition, which reflect this abstraction. Okay, following me? Simple enough. Okay. Now, what we want to do then is, and we will share this with you in just a few minutes, we're going to run you through a simulation of our definition of comprehension. So first of all, our next step is to define comprehension simply, and then I'm going to show you what's called a levels guide, which is an activity that reflects our simplified definition, which is connected to this abstraction that we call comprehension. Okay. Now, have I thrown enough at you at this point? Do you have any questions? Not really. I'll give you some wait time. We talked about the concept of wait time. Okay. Rose research in 1961. We need to give our students at least 5 seconds of wait time to give them time to think about a good response. Maybe I shared this with you, but Rose did her work in 1961, and she found that on the average, teachers gave students 2 seconds of wait time. In 1981, she replicated her study